Welcome to the Fabulous Ecopreneurship podcast series for entrepreneurs with your host, Elaine Slatter. Each episode addresses topics to help you and your business grow and succeed. Join us as we interview a variety of global experts.
Hello, everybody. We have an exciting topic today: how powerful women cement trust into their organizations to keep and amplify client relationships. And our guest today is Cathy Thompson, who's the franchisor of Beyond the Classroom. So welcome to the show, Cathy.
Thank you so much for having me, Elaine. I just love the work that you are doing. And it's amazing to have these podcasts and bring together female business owners to share their lived experience, expertise, and really going to building the community that you've got going on here. So, kudos to you and all the work that you're doing to support us female entrepreneurs. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, let's see, my degree is in psychology and sociology. So I always have that lens when I do business and look at the world. And I started my company Beyond the Classroom in 1998, and since then I've sort of become this serial entrepreneur where I have a few other companies, Simply Blossoming, where we do women's retreats. I have a company Beyond the Studio that does in-home music lessons and therapy. And I recently started a company, Cathy Thompson Leadership, where I too can help coach and mentor new and emerging entrepreneurs. So I love the business. I love the creativity behind it. And I'm just excited to be here and talking to you about such an important topic around trust.
Yes, more and more today women are starting businesses, but I find that they still need, a fair amount of support, and organizations such as yours, the Simply Blossoming retreats and the other areas of business that you're focusing on all helps. And what we're doing here at Fabulous Ecopreneurship too, all helps support women in starting and growing their businesses. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely is right. It takes a whole mountain of people to move it forward, but we are getting there. I think there's a lot more focus on women entrepreneurs, and that's why we started in our own area, Women in Leadership, as part of our Burlington Chamber of Commerce, to give another additional focus on promoting women as speakers, promoting women in their own organizations, and promoting women who are entrepreneurs. So we're all good. We all are striving for the same goal in our different ways. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start out. Why should we as business owners place focus on building and maintaining trust in our organizations?
Yeah, so I started to get curious about trust and why this was an intriguing topic to me. And I realized that trust is really inherent in all business. We want to do business. We want to buy things from and do, partnerships with and engage with services with people that we know, like, and trust. And so that's just human psychology, really. We are more attracted to people that we feel more connected to. And, there is this underlying trust. And not all the time can we know our customers personally. With tutoring, I don't know every customer personally that comes to work with us, but we have an inherent trust built into our organization where people feel the comfort with us. And so when you really look at trust and you break it down onto why it's important to organizations, it's because without trust really at the center, you will not have too many clients. Your business will not continue to grow if the trust isn't there. And so there is a piece where us as female business owners, we should focus on it and at least work it into our business in a meaningful way. And I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you, because the worst thing in online is when you're just thrust the product in your face when you don't know the company. It happens in Facebook, it happens in Twitter, it happens on LinkedIn. And, that puts a bad taste in people's mouths, and they just don't want to work with you if you're a spammer. And so what would you say are the key ways our listeners can build trust in their organization to keep and amplify client relationships? Because that's key.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many ways that you can actually do it. When you start to research the elements of trust, it's very fascinating on ways that you're probably, as entrepreneurs listening to this podcast, I'm sure you do this already in your business. You just don't know it. So I wanted to highlight actually two important areas that I feel are important and easy to implement in business, that you can amplify that trust relationship and build even more business for yourself. The first one is really looking at language, the language that we're using with our clients and potential clients. And this, insofar as the language goes, is using the word intention. When someone knows the intention behind what you're doing, it's kind of like it clears the path. If you say outright, my intention is, then they know where you're coming from. They know your intention. And if it aligns with their expectations, that is one way to automatically build trust. So for example, with Beyond the Classroom, we do in-home tutoring, which is a high trust relationship. So parents trust that Beyond the Classroom will send a trustworthy tutor in to work with their child. So we have to have trust in our organization. And one way that I've recently, over the last year, been conveying this in our first initial emails back and forth with families is to state my intention. So my intention is to provide you with the best tutor that meets your child's needs. So the family feels on the other end of that email, this is my intention for you. This is my intention for a relationship. I'm not here just that my intention isn't to, bilk you out of money and send a shoddy tutor in by any means. It's really to find the best tutor I can for you. And that is a genuine comment from me. Yeah. And so our franchises use that that language as well when they're working with their clients. And when you say that, my intention is, you yourself as the deliverer of the message feel even more confident and more assured in what you're saying. So it's kind of a sneaky way that you can elicit trust right off the bat.
Yeah, that's great, because when you're saying that my intention is, it's reaffirming it to yourself all the time as well as with your clients.
Yes, absolutely.
It forces you to always be seeking the best people because you're saying that every time you interact with a prospect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just like today, my intention to be on this podcast is to help your listeners engage those pieces of trust into their businesses to make even more robust businesses.
Yes.
And engage more clients. So that's my intention, to share my lived experience, share my knowledge and expertise with the group.
Yeah, it's your living knowledge that built from, 1999 when you started. That's so invaluable. So let's talk about your journey then as an entrepreneur when you started out in 1999.
Sure, absolutely. So, oh my gosh, actually I started in 1977 when I was 4 years old. Yes.
Yeah. Goes back a long way.
It does, yeah. And a few years ago, I was giving a presentation and I was reflecting on my journey as an entrepreneur. And then I had this flashback to when I was a child, and I'll share this story with you. So I was 4 and I was in Riverview, New Brunswick. That's where I grew up when I was little. And one day I was out on my front lawn and it was covered in beautiful dandelions, like as far as the eye could see, gorgeous dandelions. And I love the color yellow. So I remember collecting these dandelions and putting them in a container and walking around and collecting them. And then I have a flash of standing at my kitchen counter, opening the drawer and getting out those wire twist ties. And I stood there and made little bouquets of these dandelions. And then the next flash I have from my memory is actually going door to door selling these bouquets of dandelions. So I remember one of my neighbors, I remember a woman giving me money, like dimes, pennies, nickels. I remember it was change. Like I'm literally selling weeds to people in my neighborhood when I was 4. And then it's a positive memory for me. So, I think back to that and go, that's, there's kind of two things, one, what prompted me to do this at all? And secondly, where was my mom? I'm just kidding about the mom piece, but she was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm sure she was around. It's just not in my recollection. So that was really sort of, I think, the start of my entrepreneurial journey, that seed. And when I look at the symbolism of a dandelion, dandelions are a perfect symbolism for an entrepreneur. Deep-rooted, resilient. It grows in cracks and sidewalks. It's like everywhere. And yet it has a beautiful bloom. And I always think that's so funny about the dandelion and my young journey. But, flash forward several years to high school. And I started peer tutoring. I saw the difference I could make with kids. So I started doing tutoring on the side. And then in 1998 was the part where I launched Beyond the Classroom and started contracting tutors who were not my friends, and actually started a business around it at that point in time. So that was really the launch of Beyond the Classroom.
So with all that knowledge that you have and the amount of time that you've been in business, which is incredible, you definitely know the different ways over the years to build trust in your organization. So what are some of the other ways that you build trust?
One of the ways that I find is the quickest path to trust is to be your authentic self. People can tell when you're not authentic. It's just like this vibe people get. When you meet someone, you're like, I don't really know their real intention. I don't really know their agenda. I find for myself, I'm a very authentic person, almost, wearing my heart on my sleeve and expressing myself in an honest and try to be graceful manner, but just be yourself. That's one thing that I've learned. And when you are yourself, people respond and you attract the right people to work with you. And then in terms of Beyond the Classroom, there's a few ways that I've looked at breaking down, like how do we actually convey ourselves and are a trustworthy organization. One is being an active listener. Like we really listen to our clients. We listen to their needs. We listen to the needs of their children. And our intention is to find the best tutor to match that piece. So in terms of the listeners, thinking about really listening to your clients. People want to be heard. And when they feel heard and are heard, and you're meeting their needs, that's one of those layers of trust that people do all the time, but don't realize that actually is a contributor to a trustworthy relationship.
That's right.
We also, sorry, Elaine, go ahead.
I think people also, if you are authentic, as you're talking about, that's so important that when you can't help somebody, if you have referral partners that you've vetted yourself, you can pass them on to other people. And that creates more trust because people realize that you're the kind of person that isn't just taking their money, that you have their trust, and that if you can't meet their needs, you'll refer them to somebody that can help them rather than, just saying, yes, we can do everything when in the heart of hearts, you can't do that or you can't do it well.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head right there. And that leads me into a second point about demonstrating your transparency in relationships. So being transparent about the process. looking at, like you said, other options. So for families, let's say I don't have a tutor that meets their needs, and I'm very transparent about that. I'll say, I had a tutor in mind, but they don't have the qualifications for that. So I'm not confident in setting up the tutor and student in that relationship. So being transparent about what you're doing, thought processes to a point. You don't give away your trade secrets in terms of, business owners, but being transparent about your processes, I find, is another way to build trust, and being clear in your communication about expectations. And, all of our documentation is very clear. We try to be transparent and give families as much information as we possibly can to help them make an informed decision. And they feel that we care, that we want the best for them. And that's
a really good point, because you need to stop them along the way so that you have to answer all their questions and concerns in a transparent way before you can move them along to want to purchase your product or your service. So if you don't take that time in the process, then, it's not going to end up well in the end. They're going to be frustrated with you, and therefore they're not going to commit to buy your product or service. So that's very important, not to get ahead of the process. Because if your client has more questions, it's up to you to keep answering the questions so that they feel that like and trust, that then they'll pull the trigger.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And being upfront with different types of fees and different cancellation policies, that's an easy thing as a business owner to do. Easy. You set your policies, you make them aware, you have them agree to them. It's very clear, it's very transparent, and everybody's on the same page, and they're making an informed decision to do business with you, buy your products or services. Just before this call, I was actually on another call, and someone was explaining their services to me, and that's great. But there are hidden fees in there that I just found out before I hung up the phone call. And all the conversations we've had, never have these fees been mentioned. And it was a significant amount. And I just didn't think to ask that particular question, and they weren't giving me the information. And it just happened to come out. And I thought, now my trust is broken. Yes. I was like, why did you hide that from me? I thought we had a good relationship. So be careful what you're doing, business owners. Just be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So that there's as you said, the transparency is so important, so that there's nothing hidden that you're going to surprise them with, because what that did to you is turn you off that provider completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, well, what else are they hiding?
Yes, exactly, because they broke the trust with you.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what makes Beyond the Classroom stand out amongst other tutoring organizations, because of the clear policies, transparencies, and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. We personally meet with all of the tutors that we work with. They're professionals. They're often Ontario certified teachers or degreed. They have at least one university degree. All their background checks are done. So we're very thorough in the tutors that we work with, all of our locations. And the thing that really sets us apart are, well, first, we were the only in-home tutoring organization in the area at that time. But really, we have 3 core values that I say that we live and die by, kind of thing, as an organization. And I don't know about you, Elaine, but when I set these values, they're critical to the decisions that we make. And so for us, we are child-centered. So the child is at the center of our business model. And every decision we make is about the student. Whether we expand, whether we bring on a certain product or service, we always think about the child. That is really critical for us. Not the bottom line, it's about that student. And are we doing right by them? The second value is that we respect family life. Family life's busy. There's all kinds of different ways people like to have service, meet at a local library, have service in home, payment options. Everybody's different. So we're really about meeting the family where they're at and helping them get these services for their child. And then the third way is we know connection is crucial. Connection, if you think about your own childhood school career and the teachers that connected with you you felt good. You felt listened to. You felt like you could make mistakes and learn. And so that is such a critical part of Beyond the Classroom, is making sure the right fit between the tutor and the student. And even so, we give the first session for free to families to say, hey, try us out, make sure it's a good fit for you, because that's going to be that critical part of learning. And so once we identified those 3 core values, I think that, and we tell every single person that interacts with Beyond the Classroom, we send them the documentation, everything's there. So they know this is where we're coming from. These are our values. And even new franchisees, potential franchisees I meet with all the time, this is our first point of interaction. I say, do you embody these values? Do these resonate with you? And if they do, let's have another phone call. And if they don't, it's not the right fit. And so I think that that goes a long way in building that trust relationship too, sharing your values with people.
Yes, and that's a valuable tool for you to assess your potential franchisees and make sure that they have the same values as the existing franchisees and yourself as a franchisor. Because if they don't fit, it doesn't matter how much they might bring to the bottom line. If they don't have the same core values as you, then it's going to give your franchise a bad name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's critical.
That is critical.
To assess future franchisees as well. It's not just about the money. As you said, you've got children at the center of this, and that's so true. But, it doesn't matter what your product or your service is, that the things we've been talking about today to create trust happen all along the way for every single business, every single entrepreneur out there, because we all recommend companies that we trust and like. And therefore, if you can't create that trust, then you won't get referrals from other businesses either, because they don't like you, or they don't trust you, or you've demonstrated that you're not easy to work with, or you're whatever. And, you won't get the referrals from other business partners either if you're difficult to work with, or you don't have the same core values as they do.
That's a great point. Yeah, yep, definitely.
So what is the one takeaway lesson you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I was reflecting on this question, and in terms of this trust piece, I feel that as women business owners, we sometimes try to be what they think society wants us to be. So we have to be this franchisor who is running all these franchisees, and we have to act a certain way and behave a certain way. And I think there's a lot of confidence in just being yourself and being your authentic self as a business owner, because really your business is about you. You're in that business. Your fingerprint is on that business. And if you have the confidence to be your authentic self, you'll engage so many more people in your business. You'll get the referrals. You will build trust with clients. But it starts with the confidence as a female business owner to really own yourself and own what you're putting out there on the market. Because oftentimes it is, our own services, or it's a product that we've thought of and, we're putting it to market. And having that confidence to be your authentic self, get out there, you will see a world of difference. And it all goes back to that trust.
Yes, that's very well said, Cathy, because you can only deliver things in the authentic way that reflects you. You can't pretend to be something that you're not. And so you're not going to attract all clients. You're going to attract the ones that have the same core values as you. So you've got to have authentic core values, because then you attract the clients that you want to have, because you're the authentic you, and they connect with your vibe. And there's different vibes for every single business, I think. And therefore you have to find your own authentic vibe. You have to be confident, as you said, in who you are and who you want to serve, and in how you want to serve them. Don't pretend to be something that you're not, because it just won't work. People see through that completely.
Yeah. And, I encourage listeners to check out a book that I picked up about a year ago. It's called The Speed of Trust. It is by Stephen M.R. Covey. So Stephen Covey's son. The Stephen Covey we know, it's his kid. The Speed of Trust. And it's kind of a big book-ish because it's got so much information. It's sort of like a textbook almost. And so I, grab a highlighter, grab the book, and it's going to take a while to get through. But he breaks down those components of trust and really digs into almost that bank account of trust that an organization might have. So even if something happens, you can rebuild trust quickly when you're a trustworthy organization.
Wow, that's a great book. Could you repeat the name again?
Yeah, it's called The Speed of Trust.
The Seed, like S-E?
Speed.
Oh,
S-P-E-E-D. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that link in the podcast blog so that our listeners can, I'm sure you can get that on Amazon, correct?
I'm sure you can. Yeah. And like I say, it's not necessarily an easy read, but the information that is in that, for me as a business owner, I've dissected some of that and brought it to life in an evidence-based way for my franchise locations so they can use this in their interactions and engage their clients and students in a way that is really meaningful. So I do encourage you to pick up this book.
That sounds like a fantastic book to read, because even if it's hard to read, you can just read little bits of sections, as you said, and highlight it and go back to it again and again. And I find with a lot of books, you read them once and then you reread them maybe a year later and come from a completely different point of view, because you maybe put some things in practice and now you want to learn something more. So that's a great book to have on the bookshelf, that's for sure. So it's been fantastic talking to you, Cathy, and we can get in touch with you on your classroom Facebook page or on your LinkedIn or any other way.
Yeah, I'm sort of all over the place. You can connect with me in lots of ways. So beyondtheclassroom.ca is that website. So feel free to connect with me through there or look me up on LinkedIn. I'm there as well.
Okay, that's perfect. We'll put all those links in the blogcast post. And thank you so much for being our guest today. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thank you, Elaine. I really appreciate you having me here today.
No problem. We'll talk to you again soon.
To receive your free gift and connect directly with the podcast guest, visit our website at fabfempreneurship.com/entrepreneur mastermind podcasts and click on this episode. Here's to building your business growth, one step at a time. If you enjoyed this podcast, why not tune in to other episodes in this series at fabfempreneurship.com/entrepreneur mastermind podcasts.